Hello. We're live, Cooley. We're live.
Great, and everybody hear me? There's a little bit of an echo, but yeah, welcome everybody. Do we have everybody? We got Tim Mothman, we got Drew Banky. We got some exciting news tonight. So welcome to our new Subnation X. So basically, how do you guys want it? You guys. Tim Mothman, why don't you take it over first? You give your introduction. This is like brand new, you know. So this is our premiere, our grand premiere right now. So we're gonna have a few technical difficulties on my end. I'll assure you of that. But we got Drew and Tim here, so that's great. And,
you can just call me Tim Mothman. I've been interested in
yeah.
since I was a little kid. I grew up near Roswell. I used to work on Holloman Air Force Base.
Tim, move closer to the microphone.
I've had several sightings in my life, so this is just a subject that's always interested me. And I'm not an expert or anything, but I like to get into the woo.
You are an expert. What are you talking about? You definitely are an expert. I love it because you bring a lot to the table. You know, a lot of people, like especially, you know, in our chats, and you've gotten to know things from the inside out.
Yeah, I've met a lot of people through these various chats. That's for sure. My world got a lot bigger. You know, I have friends all over the world now. Just because of hanging out in this community, and I've met a lot of these people in person too. So it's been life altering.
Absolutely. And Drew, without do, I don't know where mine's echoing.
Yeah, Drew Banky been rolling around the circuit for a while since 2019. I started public speaking and. Yeah, just doing different interviews, in-person conferences and radio shows. And I do the weekend after-hours report over on Spaced Out Radio every Saturday and Sunday on the third hour with Rob G. That's where I'm at now. And yeah, I got a big interview coming up, going to Vegas in January to be on the Digital Social Hour podcast with Sean Kelly. And yeah, I'm finally starting to get in touch with Sean Ryan, and got in touch with his booking agent, and been talking back and forth with him. So that's only a matter of time. And got 3 chickens today. That's some other big news in my life on the farm. And yeah, man, I just love to have fun and talk about UFOs and consciousness and psychedelic connection and all that good stuff. So, yeah, we got some exciting guests tonight that's here with us. And in the future, we're going to get these kinks worked out. We're going to be there on time next time. I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah.
Barely hear you. Can barely hear you, Nicole.
You barely hear me? Okay. How about now?
You're so echoed.
How about now? No?
That's pretty good.
How about now?
It's echoed.
Now?
Nope, echoed. I think you got some type of feature turned on.
Yeah, it sounds like you got some reverb or something.
We're gonna let Cooley get this figured out, and we're gonna bring our good friend Jim Goodall to the stage while Cooley figures out this situation. Can't hear you at all, Cooley.
Hi, Jim. Welcome.
Hey, Jim. How's it going?
Yeah. Well,
welcome to the circus.
Other than I got banned at X for basically saying, the punishment for treason is death. And they were accusing me of threatening people. well, you commit treason, you're threatening the country. So this is the third or fourth time they've blocked me or banned me and whatever. And I think I may just say to hell with them. There's a lot of people on there I know and a lot of people I like, but I put up with the crap from Facebook forever. My worst year was 2014. Out of the 52 weeks, I was banned for 41 of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And some of them, it wasn't a whole week. Maybe it was 72 hours. Maybe it was, 24 hours. And I just don't give a crap. I mean, I really don't. They shouldn't, this is an open platform. There should be no, you threaten someone personally. Now they blocked me because I referred to the butcher of Benghazi as the butcher of Benghazi.
It's crazy.
And apparently someone didn't appreciate that. And I know they don't like my comments about Skid Mark and Big Mike. I coined the name Big Mike for her or him just almost when they began their first campaigning. She just looked too much like a guy. She's bigger than most guys too. But I like my new name for his boyfriend, Skid Mark, also known as BHO.
What's your thoughts about Trump mentioning UFOs on the Rogan interview?
Oh, that just tickled the hell out of me. He's going to do a lot of things that are going to be very, very exciting for this country, unless, of course, the deep state steals the election again. But that's my opinion, and I don't know. I am so sick and tired of listening to the harpies and the butthurt people and the Karens out there and the Drews, I guess you'd call, would be the female version of a.
Hey, now watch it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I really. As soon as I said, I looked down and it was, oh shit. So, but
we're having a good time.
Yeah, but I'm tired of the commercials. I'm politically active as far as I respond to a lot of them and I comment all the time. To the point of being a pain in the ass. But every hour I have to go on my phone messages, and it'll take me 20 minutes to erase them. I mean, to individually go through and get rid of them. Yeah. And I wish there was a way I could just say select all, but on the if they leave in a text message, you can't do that. Yeah. So, but I'm buying a new computer next week. My Mac, I've had, it's a 2017, probably have about 10 million miles on it. It's slow. It freezes on me. So I'm going to get a new M4 processor, and they only have a 24-inch monitor now. They get rid of the smaller ones and I have a 27-inch. But they say it's full frame. It goes to the edges. So I'm looking forward to it. It costs more than my Nikon 850. But it'll probably be my last computer.
Oh no, you ain't going nowhere. You gotta keep you around.
Hey,
I haven't been snooping around Area 51 yet, so you gotta stick around.
Well, I mean, if I could find someone with a 4-wheel drive, or a pair of quads, because there's a way to go from the Rachel side there's a way to there's a track over to get past the camo dudes that are illegally signage out a mile from the border. They have no jurisdiction outside of the physical parameters of Area 51. They can intimidate you. They can if they pull a gun on you, that's a serious thing. I don't think they're going to shoot you. Too much paperwork, unless they drag your butt into Area 51, and there isn't a legal entity that can go in there and retrieve your body, even if it's laying 20 feet on the other side of the fence. I mean, you throw some grappling hooks in there to try to pull it over, but the coyotes will get to it first. No, it is a. There's a lot of characters in and around Area 51. There's a lot of people who don't know their ass from a bucket of spit. And I've been snooping on Area 51. I mean, I didn't realize it until probably 30 years later, but I was actually in Area 51 in April of 1964. I was there for 5 hours, and I didn't see anything. I heard stuff. I mean, I heard some.
That's when you were still in the service.
Yeah, I had turned 19 right after I got to Edwards, but I saw my first blackbird on March 10th, 1964, and at the end of the month I turned 19th. I was an 18-year-old two-striper, and it changed my entire life, or affected my entire life. I became a pain in the ass to a lot of people, especially at DOD, CIA, Air Force, Lockheed. And somewhere along the line, I think it was a lot of influence from John Andrews. He was like my big brother, John Andrews from Testers. He's the one who introduced me to the infamous, the late, the great John Lear. And John and I were friends, 45 years before he left us. And he probably went off in a UFO somewhere. But I saw him about 4 months before he passed away, and I just felt so bad for him. He had no energy. He had gained an incredible amount of weight because he was really immobile. And it just breaks my heart to see this guy that, John and I were the first to go up the top of Whitesides. And because John has really bad feet, he was in 2 for sure, 3, I think, airplane crashes. One of them, he actually wrapped his feet literally where his toes touched his heel on the rudder pedals when he came in. He was a one and only. There's only one John Lear, and I was blessed to be his friend. And I sort of covered. He was real. He had specific people that he saw with his Air America friends and his and some warrior friends and some whatever. But I was sort of in the category that I sort of was on a little bit of all of them. So, John and I just had an interesting and wonderful friendship, and I'm blessed to have been somebody I can call his friends. Is she there yet? Ta-da!
Ta-da! Can you hear me though?
Oh Jesus! Yes. Back up a little.
Yeah, back up. You're good. Turn it down.
Okay, but because of John Andrews, I met John Lear, and because of John Lear, I met Bob Lazar.
You don't know Bob Lazar.
And I knew him before he went to work out there. So,
you're one of the icons, Jim. You really are. Like, so you can get us on Area 51?
Yeah, sit back and don't yell so loud. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, not in the other room, but when you got real close.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Just okay? You're good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So who had a question?
Me. I said, are you going to get us on Area 51?
Oh, well, I can tell you how to get in there. I won't guarantee you won't get picked up.
I'm only going if you're going.
Well, I'd only do it. Well, let's put it this way. We called him Agent X. He went by Mark Farmer. It was a special ops guy. He was one of the original Dreamland interceptors. Those of us who went up and were out there. I was there for a week, about every 5 or 6 weeks for over 10 years. It was that in Tonopah Test Range, and it was just an incredibly special time to be there. And now all of us, once we were hit with 9/11, all sorts of things changed. And then they took Whitesides away, they took Freedom Ridge away, and now they've illegally put out signs, like I said earlier, over a mile from the restricted area, and there's areas where we almost, if I'd have had a Humvee, I could have driven to the top of the Groom Range. But the ruts were too deep for even for a 4-wheel drive, so we hiked up there, and we were at the very top of the mountain. And I was up there. I've been up to the top of the Groom Range, both in the west, coming up from the west, and coming up from the east. The west, you have to climb through a boulder. The whole side of the mountain is just broken rock. And that's just a perfect place for snakes. And so you want to do it. You want to do it when it's cold. Okay. And I mean, I was up there with the Swiss mountain bat. His name was Meinrad. He was from just outside of. I think he was outside of Geneva. I think, but we were in the tent, and it was cold. And all of a sudden, I hear something hitting the tent, and I unzipped a little bit, and I reached my hand out, and it went right into a snowdrift. Came back, put it all together, and then, hey, Rad, shit, guess what it's doing?
Oh no, I've been out of there in seconds.
Yeah, and it's I have some pictures of me. All wrapped up on all my Arctic gear, and just like we looked like a homeless encampment, but it was fun. But there's a way to sneak in there if you want. I can tell you how to do it. You get on a horse, preferably one that hasn't been shoed, and you just let it walk in. They have sensors that can tell the difference between a horse and a human out there walking.
Oh, I bet.
Well, we just ride horses.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I think any horse that you're going to rent, unless you own one, is going to have horseshoes.
I got a mule, and it don't have shoes. She rides without shoes.
Really?
She'll ride anywhere.
And but you have just to walk slow. I mean, just like she's grazing. That's one way to do it. Agent X, he had a sniper outfit. I mean, he looked like a tumbleweed. And it took him 4 days. He literally crawled on his hands and knees, and sometimes just on his bellies. He spent 2 nights out there and 2 full days. And on at least one or two occasions, there were patrols going within 100 feet of where he was.
Wow.
And he said it's real hard if you got to take a pee. How do you do it? And of course, you had to bring all your water and food, and you're going to be. I mean, it was a 4-day trek. I said, well, how do you go take a dump somewhere? He said, yeah, but you got to try to hide behind something so they sensors don't pick up and they don't hear you. But and that was in the 90s. Today, I don't think you would get by with that. But
no.
You can, if you decide to go in, if you get I had the fraud that I was married to she wasn't good for a lot of things. She was the gorgeous.
Fraud I was married to.
She was gorgeous and she was sexy, but she took me literally for everything, except my sense of humor.
Oh
but I got two survival blankets, is day glow orange on one side and silver on the aluminized on the other. And I sewed them together. I had her sew them together, and then she had a girlfriend who had a quilting machine. This is when I lived on Whidbey Island, and we got it all quilted. And then she made a poncho for me with it. So nice. I was going. The one thing the Payfox have, they have infrared scanner on there, so they can look for anybody hiding. And I'm so darn hard of hearing, I probably wouldn't hear the helicopter even if he just came right on top of me. But I had this poncho. It's 30 degrees out when I left the little alien, and this is like in January or February. This is back in the 90s, and I made it about 3, maybe 4 miles in. There's these washers, and they go like this coming off the Groom Range, which is really what they call it, the Sky Island. It's not part of a mountain range, but we have them all around here. The Catalinas are Star Islands.
Oh, okay.
And I realized I've seen enough every bit of photography that's available in and around Area 51, and those were washes. And after I went over about 4 of them, I realized I probably have about 5 or 6 more to go. And I was literally sopping wet from sweat.
Oh, wow.
I was because I had the front of the poncho open. I didn't have the hood up on it, so I'm not enclosed in it. But I was generating an awful lot of anxiety, I guess you'd call it. And I got in there, and then finally I sat down. I thought I heard something, and I pulled everything down and scrunched into a ball. And then I didn't hear anything, and it was something long way away. And it was just the way the sound traveled out there through some of the canyons. So I hightailed back, and I decided, I know I have a real strong heart. I've been on the stress test, and he said, hey, for an old guy, you have an incredibly strong heart. So I knew even when I was, 30 years ago, I wasn't going to have a heart attack, but I know I wasn't going to die of anxiety. I just didn't want the camera dudes to come up and all of a sudden hear, "Don't move."
Right. Oh,
and
man.
Yeah, so you can get in there.
Well, we're going in.
Well, the best thing to do, because everything that all the spooky stuff that takes off out of Area 51 takes off to the north. So if you're at the fence line before you get to the bombing range,
right.
And there's a big tree you can hide under, make a campsite out of that. But that's where you want to be. So if anything's flying, and you don't want to be directly in the path, you want to be off just a side of, at least a mile off the flight path. And there's a perfect place. If you had someone with a white 4-door pickup truck, you could pretend like you're going to the watering trough. You can drop everybody off, and then that person who's driving you in there, because anytime anything drives off the road, the guards at the bombing range will call security, and said, we have someone going over there, so you may want to take a look. And if it goes up to the water trough and it's up there, you're up there for 10 minutes or whatever, and you don't let them see any other bodies than one. And then as you drive out, there's a depression where you drive down in where they can't see you. And that's when you drop everything off. You drop the tents, you drop the the camouflage netting, the food, water, and then it drives out. And maybe it goes back to Las Vegas or goes to Tonopah, the town of Tonopah.
We'll have to get one of those costumes, like the horses, you could be the fed and I'll be the
Who's going to be the ass?
Yeah, well, definitely. Thank you, Drew. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're going to bring in our friend Steve Bassett here.
Yes.
Steve Bassett is the executive director of Paradigm Research Group. He is a political advocate, disclosure advocate, and the executive director of Paradigm Research Group, founded in 1996 to end a government-imposed embargo on the truth behind extraterrestrial-related phenomenon. He's been featured on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, and the Washington Post. He's done over 1,200 interviews on radio and podcast. Let's give it up for our friend Steve Bassett. Thank you.
Yay!
Howdy, folks.
Oh, Steve. Oh, yeah. There's an applause. Mine's a little late.
How you doing?
Great. Great. I said we got two icons on, Jim and you. And I really thought it was – I've seen – I'm just kind of going to a little bit. I always watch – Stephen Bassett really closely, and all of you really closely, not creepy way, but I noticed your kind of tone has changed a little bit, Steve, because last year when I had interviewed you, you weren't so optimistic about what was going to go on, and now it seems like things are starting to change. So,
last year, you mean about the same time?
About the same time. Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I got to go back. Let's see. Last year, we're talking October. Grush came out in July. I know what happened in October last year is that the All-Comprehensive Disclosure Act that Chuck Schumer and Mike Rounds put into submitted for the NDA.
Sure.
That was essentially stripped of most of its important parts, the powers, right? I did set up some things. It did advance the issue and advance the congressional involvement and set up the archive office or the archive section in the National Archives, which is there now. If you go to the National Archive website and you search on UAP, you will get to it. Now, there's not a lot in it, but something's in it, right? So they have established the destination, and that was fine. But the bill was substantially minimized, and that was a pushback on the part of those that simply weren't ready to go forward. So I'm sure I was responding to that. It was a bit of a setback, but lots happened since then.
Yeah, so catch us up because. Oh, go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
Yeah, well, Dr. Greer has made his files available to everybody, and Michael Schratt spent 18 or 19 months full time scanning documents. They were all scanned in PDF format. They're all searchable by word, or a phrase. And it's everything that Greer had, which was a ton. Everything that Michael Schratt had, which was a ton. Plus, he went to the archives there in Roswell, scanned a ton of stuff there, and he's been scanning several different large collections of UFO material. So that's there. I know. Was it on December? I think it's December 12th. the Cousin Brothers are going to have the disclosure event. This.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean it's they've been working on the movie for or the documentary for 2 years. Smiley faces in it, and it's. I saw bits and pieces. I posted on. I have the dust cover, if you want to call it that, on my Facebook homepage, and it's supposed to come out. And also, I was talking with Luigi, who's doing Bob Lazar, the original whistleblower, and they're shooting for right around Christmas. They're not.
There's a lot coming out around Christmas. That's
they're. I mean, they've been working full time because I said, hey, I haven't. I've seen people post some stuff, but I haven't seen anything from you. He said, no, we had whatever's being reposted is older stuff.
Oh, okay.
And he said, I had said, you're on the top of our list of when something's sent out, because I know I've been invited to the world premiere.
Oh, you're gonna go, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you need a date?
My wife probably wouldn't approve, but then she'd probably forget about it anyway. So.
Well, okay, maybe a +2 or something. We'll sneak in there.
Yeah. But there's a number of people that I bring in with me.
And am I one of them?
Or you could be. I mean, I'll know more as we get close. We don't know what the venue is yet. Luigi said,
"I'll go anywhere."
Yeah. Luigi said that they're trying to negotiate to get the Sphere in Las Vegas for the world premiere.
Oh.
Now, I mean, that may be just a dream, but the world premiere will be in Las Vegas. Whenever it is. So
I have no problems doing that. That's fascinating. He's done a lot with that. And then too, Steve, with the Hollywood disclosure, you want to fill us in on all of that that's been going on?
Well, the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance is growing. It's up to about 175 members, founding members, not split evenly between Hollywood founding members and UAP. And it's doing what it was created to do. It's making it much easier for people in the content creation industry to find people in our world in order to make content that gets it right. Because people had it right for some time. The people in the big production in Hollywood, they've stayed away from the issue. They wouldn't do documentaries. That's just started. That's finally starting as they're waking up. But they're not drawing on the resources that this field has created, and it's we're trying to bridge that gap, and it's happening, and it's helping to generate projects. There's another project just landed. It's not an HCA related thing. It's not one of our members, but J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot just dropped the follow up to UFO, which was a 4-part documentary that was the highest rated show on Showtime. It's called Beyond, and it just dropped. I don't know where it is, maybe Paramount Plus, I'm not sure. So it's another 4 episodes. I imagine he's got caught up with new stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing if they got anything wrong. And maybe I can find out who are their consultants. But again, I'm concerned that they're just not respecting the work that was done by just citizens without money. Wrote all those books behind me and did so many docs before they would put their money on the table. So we'll see how that goes. But it's inevitable that the Hollywood and the entire film industry is going to jump on this with both feet. And hopefully we'll all be able to be part of that. And that'll be nice.
So who's representing them? Is it, do they have, I'm trying to think who, off the top of my head, like, what's his name? Gosh, he's Dan Aykroyd.
By what represent?
Like, are they like the Hollywood Alliance? Like, is there anybody like? Because there's, you've got other like. He was a huge part of MUFON. I think he is still a part of MUFON, isn't he?
Who?
Dan Aykroyd.
Look, we'd love to have Dan Aykroyd in the HDA, and he's been approached, but we've only been able to get through his get to his agents or his representatives, and you know how that is. I've met him and I know him, and I think eventually maybe we'll be able to get him to join up. It'd be wonderful. He's perfect. But it's going to take a while. We need to earn we need to get some cred. We've been around almost a year. We got 174 members. We've got one Oscar winner, maybe two soon, but we're not quite there yet. And we're not there in terms of fundraising either. We've only raised a modest amount of money, so we can't do a lot. But the whole thing is not about spending money. It's about networking people together. And then they go and do the projects. We don't fund anything. We don't make money from projects. And so it's working. And HDA is, I'm proud of it. Almost 1 year old as of November 3.
Yeah, congratulations. That was pretty cool. I thought maybe you had it just seems like there's a shift happening where I've noticed even like news, they're reporting on things. What I know that the UAP and the UFO has created a little bit of a division between the community. Can you explain like why like the UAP, like what's, I don't know.
I say it's not really much division. I personally don't comment on it. It's not a big deal. It is simply, it's very simple. In order to get the Congress involved, in order to get the level of journalism we needed to stop using the ghetto language that the government forced on us, right? I say forced on us. In other words, we chose the language in the early days. I mean, flying saucer was used in the Roswell Daily Record, right? The article. They found a flying saucer, and then they emptied the saucers. But saucer was no, we can't do that. So Ruppel came up with UFO. That's fine. It's kind of funky. And then the government's job after that was to just throw as much derision on that term as possible, so that when you use it, you immediately diminish yourself. This is classic ghettoization techniques where you isolate people and ideas. So the UFO just got was heaped on the UFO with all this derision for decades. Now, in order to move forward, we need to ditch that term, at least sidelined a little bit, and we brought in UAP. Unidentified aerial phenomena meant exactly the same thing, but it didn't have the stigma. So a journalist or a member of Congress could say UAP and not be concerned that, oh, well, what are people going to think? So we made it mainstream. Now, what is fascinating is that it only took about 3 years. And before you know it, UFO came back. Now, this reflects the fact that people have known about this subject for decades. There's a huge number of people that know it's true. And so while UFO is a problem, for most people, it wasn't a problem. And very quickly, it came back. And we started seeing members of Congress use the term UFO. It turns up in mainstream articles. And now they're interchangeable. And what that means is the stigma on this issue is almost completely gone. It's just almost not there at all. And that, of course, means big trouble for the truth embargo.
Yeah, it is true.
I had heard someone said, if they say UAP, it's ours. If they say UFO, I'm talking about government talking heads.
I understand.
Yes,
but I do have it from the more or less the horse's mouth that 95% of what we're seeing is man-made.
Well, I'm talking to a different horse.
Yeah,
I think 95% we see is non-human.
Yeah. Well,
you don't think the black budget projects and stuff like that? I have a hard time distinguishing between the two too. Like and then if you talk to Rick Doty, he claims that there are actual like codes like that. I had to have to look them up. Like identified codes for them, and I guess I don't understand why we're not using those
codes. What do you mean by codes?
Like the brevity codes, you know how they're UAP, UFO. Well, he says they're like IP. I'd have to look back at my notes and see, because he claims that like Congress, and I think we've talked about this before, Steve, that Congress and Senate are two totally different things, and that Congress a lot of times does not have the security clearance to be briefed on any of it. So that part confuses me, I guess.
Well, it's even more complicated than that, but let's just say that the Gang of Eight, which includes Chuck Schumer and the Intelligence Committee in the Senate has got the classification level for virtually anything. But that's fine. And that's one of the reasons why they came up with unacknowledged special access programs.
Right.
That was designed to be able to keep some things completely away from everybody except perhaps the president. And of course, it's not right. And they've known about it, but they've gone along with it, right? In other words, I don't need the hassle. They want to have a special unacknowledged program, fine. But when it gets down to it, okay, when you get down to the nitty gritty, Congress has the oversight powers here. And in order to have oversight, you've got the clearances. And so while the government can make it difficult to exercise those clearances, it doesn't mean they don't have it. So it's what is happening now is everything's being worked out. They're getting the legislation done. Plenty of members of Congress have been briefed. They got a pretty good idea of what's going on, and there's an entity set up, Arrow. So we're getting to where we can end the embargo, but we're not quite there. And actually ending it is still going to be a tough deal because the final thing, the closing act, is still a significant thing because there's a lot of people still who do not want this embargo ended. And so they're going to kind of hold off and try to stall it as long as possible. And then the process is subject to the vicissitudes of history. And history is a bitch, right? I mean, as we very well know.
Right.
But we're practically there. All we really need is one major Senate hearing that pretty much torches the truth embargo, and then the president can come forward. That's really all that's necessary right now. There's going to be another hearing in the House. That's fine, but that's not enough. The hearing that ends the embargo will be in front of the Senate Intel Committee. But they're not ready to call it yet. They're nibbling a little here, a little there. Gillibrand's going to have another briefing, maybe. They need to resolve this. But keep in mind that, and this is just a coincidence of history, that the very last days of the truth embargo, or potentially the last days and weeks of the truth embargo, virtually ended up a dead heat with the political situation underway, which has been 8 years in the process, and it's coming to a head again on November 5. And so the truth embargo is trying to get wrapped up, but I'm afraid the queue is already filled, and so it's been held up for that. And so we're not going to see anything until after the election. And then the question is how much.
Yeah, well, exactly. I'm just wondering why they're stalling on it. What's your opinion? I mean, you watch this pretty closely. You're in DC. You're, going out there and.
Well, the reason they pushed back last year, don't call it stalling, it was outright pushback. They were trying to see if they could really stop the process. And then when they put out the Aero Study report, which is a complete lie, that was an attempt to try to maybe shut it down. That didn't work. So they're losing, right? In other words, the truth embargo is coming down. The truth embargo managers are losing. They know it. But there are still some ways that they can kind of slow it down. But what I'm talking about is the election. This is no trivial election. This is a major election in the history of the country. It is all-consuming. The consequences afterwards could be dramatic, and so they need to get that out of the way first. They could have maybe done this back in early 2024, even up until maybe April, but after that, it just became unlikely. And so it got sucked into the black hole of this election. Now it's going to come out the other side. The first hearing will be in front of the House, Nancy Mace. She's already got 3 witnesses lined up, at least. They're not bad. They're okay. I'd like to see a couple others. I'm trying to get a very important witness in there, but I'm just little old Steve, so we'll see about that. And then Gillibrand's going to hold another, I hope, hearing, but it'll probably end up being another briefing. That all of this activity feeds the media, keeps the thing going. And so right now, what I'm talking to people about is this. What I'm suggesting is this: that if you take all the circumstances in the world, foreign and domestic, and you consider them, the proper way to go now is for Mark Warner, who I actually met briefly and gave my card to the other day. It was an accident. Mark Warner needs to call the hearing, get 20 witnesses in there. We know the kinds of witnesses that will be available, and they will blow the truth embargo up. Would only take about a week, and then Biden comes forward and ends the truth embargo. In other words, get it done before the next administration takes over. And they'll have 71 days to do that.
Oh, but what do you think? Just with the distrust, I'm not trying to be like silly here, but if Biden came out, I think he's the last person I'd want to come out and say that. Like I don't think anybody believe it. That's good. That's going to be the problem with this, the government part of it.
Don't you think? That's an interesting statement. Nobody will believe it. Look, that's not the way things are, dear. It's a big country with a lot of people, but it's not so much about him. The reason we have to have the hearings is the president's not going to come out and say, "Let me tell you something you didn't know."
Right.
The reason you have to have the hearings is you put 20 witnesses under oath and you put them on camera, going all the way around the world, and everybody sees the evidence that we know well about. But they see it testified under oath, like Grush, only 20 witnesses over 5 days, not a half a day, and it's done. All the president will have to do is come forward and acknowledge what everybody just saw confirms the ET presence. That strips the political heat out of it. It's not Biden telling us the truth or not. It is the president confirming what you just saw after conferring with his advisors, that in fact we have non-human tech, non-human bodies. And that takes and sucks a lot of the partisanship out of it. It gets it done so that now we're already in the post-disclosure world as the new administration takes office. And they're not going to have to deal with that. They're going to have plenty to deal with. So now the new president can deal with the post-disclosure issues because that has been settled. And that is going to be so much easier on everybody. And so I am pushing very hard in what way I can to say we got 71 days from the election. Let's have the hearing. Let's get disclosure and then have that out of the way. And it'll go worldwide in a week. I mean, that means before the inauguration, every major nation on the planet will have also confirmed the ET presence. And not try to just drop this into the plate of a brand new president that's going to be governing in an absolute heated situation. I assure you, whoever wins this election, the period afterward is going to be red hot. It's going to be ugly, nasty, confusing, probably even violent. And so that's not going to be a conducive atmosphere to try to deal with as easily the most important issue in the world. So I'm going to try to make that case. I don't know if anybody will buy it, but if they do, then maybe that hearing will happen.
That's great, but what do you think about the experiencers? And I know that you're not, and then you do the post-disclosure part. And I used to follow that a lot because going back, you have a whole plan that extends once that this disclosure happens, the truth embargo's dropped, of what's going on forward, right?
I have as an estimation. It's not my plan. I mean, no,
I read it before,
but I have an idea of how I think it'll unfold. Yeah.
Well, because I remember you talking about the caretaker government, and then I think you were in with Teresa Tyndall. I don't know if she's still a part of it or not.
That was a long time ago. It's a phrase I've used. It's a phrase I've used. I don't use it lately, but it's a term that represents what I consider to be a inappropriate attitude that the government increasingly has taken with the American people.
Yeah.
That we are your caretaker. And therefore, we will tell you when you need to go to the bathroom or what you need to know and not tell you what will upset you. And no. Your job is to defend us against all enemies, domestic and foreign, and see to it that that services and so forth are provided. Your job is not to play babysitter to the American people. I don't use that phrase as much lately because I'm trying to be a nicer guy.
No, I love it. You tell like it is. That's what I appreciate about you. Is that you're right out there. That's great. I'm just wondering. I guess they're from being in looking at a little bit different perspective. The experiencers feel like they hold so much of the truth, and that the government coming out just might be able to take control of that narrative again. If we don't have a plan in motion and we're kind of not on the same page. And that's why I think it's really good to bridge the two, because you're very important and Jim's very important and you're so I figure if we can bridge the gap here, somehow that maybe we stand a better shot.
Well, not exactly.
No. Okay.
It's really a fairly simple.
try.
It's a very simple equation.
Okay.
I've acknowledged the contactees and so forth for years. I have no problem doing it. But in terms of the process leading to ending the truth embargo, which is difficult and involves getting cooperation of Congress of the United States, we had to focus on those things which can be dealt with comfortably by them. And that is national security and so forth. The contactees will have their time. They will have their day, and they will be well received, and they're going to get a lot of attention. But we couldn't be going up on the hill saying, Senator, I need you to meet somebody that was taken up in a spaceship or has had a hybrid child. Yeah. They're going to go, I don't think I want to talk to that person. I mean, this is just realism. Now, let me be clear, and I've said this many times. The day after disclosure, unless they shut the government down, every briefing room in this town, where my office is 2 blocks from the White House, is going to be packed with reporters, every one of them, and they're going to have a lot of questions, and they're going to ask them, and I can just about guarantee that on day one or more reporters in that room, after there've been some questions already handled, are going to say, "Excuse me, now that you've confirmed that we have this non-human tech and non-human bodies, does that mean that the reports of people being taken by some of those non-humans you referred to are true?" That question is going to come up on day one, and unless they're adamant, friggin' mind, they will answer it truthfully, and they will say yes. And then the follow-up question is, what more can you tell us about that? And we say, look, you can't do everything at once, right? We're getting information out to you, and there's going to be other hearings. There's going to be other briefings, and we will get to that.
You don't think they're going to hunt us, do you? I'm not joking. I kind of worry about that from time to time.
Well, don't worry about it. What will happen is that X number of days after disclosure, a hearing will take place in Congress that'll have nothing but contactees. Now, they may be contactees that are actually government people. That are in government, they're under oath, maybe they have a career, whatever. But the contactees will have hearings as well. Now, that's going to not come immediately, but it will happen. And X number of days, I don't know how many days that'll be. And those hearings will be well received. Ultimately, when in the post-disclosure world, when huge sums of money are going to become available to address this issue at every level, millions and millions of dollars are going to be provided to some organization, and that organization's job is to collate all of the known contactee reports, which means, first of all, getting the rights to them, collecting them, getting them all together, going through them and analyzing them and coming out with reasonably useful information, consensus type information. The number of contactee reports probably available is well above 500,000, and that's why it's going to take millions of dollars to go through them. And that will happen. And that report will be provided to the people. And then one of the things will come up fairly early is, what is the government's position on these events? Is the government going to take action? Is the government going to try to help stop it? Is the government powerless? This will come up too. In general, the inside people have a certain timeline. They think, well, how long it'll take to get to this, and how long it'll take to get to that, and when will the contactees come into play? And whatever the timeline they think they have, it's going to be a hell of a lot shorter than they think, because they're not capable of understanding or appreciating the unbelievable attention and engagement from the world's people they're going to be facing off. And when you're talking about 8 billion people with a significant of them, their hair's on fire, and they want to know about this, the idea that you're going to hold them off, give us a couple of years. No. So that timeline is going to be much shorter, and we're going to move pretty quickly, I believe, to get through as much as possible. At some point, the equipment will come out. We'll see the tech. That could be in the first year easily. But I'm speculating here. All I can say is that once the gates are open, they can't be closed again.
Right. I agree with that. definitely. So have you been in contact with other countries, or how, like you said, that they'll get involved or they'll come forward, or is there anybody
not
part
me.
of the alliance?
No, not me. I mean, there are people in research in other countries that are kind of on my list, and they get my information. But there isn't. Other countries are not reaching out to organizations by and large in the U.S. saying, "Let's partner up now." You will see that, but by and large, the rest of the world, and by default, I include China and Russia, are just kind of letting the U.S. do this. It's like, look, you do it.
I don't understand that, but yeah, definitely.
Well, because that was the way it was set up. That's the way things started a long time ago. And why rock the boat? It's our card to play, unless a autocratic country like Russia or China decides.
Yeah, Russia. Oh yeah. Well, you know what? I guess we're kind of gone over break here. So, but I have some questions about Russia. I always have to ask you about Putin and stuff too. Since I think it's fascinating that you had a chance to meet him. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and take a quick 5-minute break. If everybody, I'm so engaged in this, and we're finally back on track. So this is wonderful.
All right. So back in 5 minutes. Back in 5 minutes.
We'll be back in 5 minutes. Yeah. Right. As soon as I'm a little technologically Drew, help. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know about this. I don't know.
Oh, we don't know. I got it. I think I got it. Maybe. That's this right. You got it.
Interviews from distant stars, questions we dare to ask, footsteps and forces afar, mysteries in our grasp, UFOs and things unseen, paranormal in the in-between, cryptids lurking in the night, bring the unknown to the light. Of Sasquatch roam, legends of eerie moans, footprints that lead us home, signals from cosmic zones, aliens and haunted ground, phenomena all around, lost truth waiting to be found. In silence there's a sound, UFOs and things unseen, paranormal in the in-between. Lurking in the night, bring the unknown to the light. UFOs and beings unseen, paranormal in the in-between. Cryptids lurking in the night, bring the unknown to the light. Cryptids lurking in the night, bring the unknown to the light. Call out it to the unknown.
Tim on the radio waves, Helix rocks where the mystery plays, talking about the world beyond our own, UFOs and creatures that roam, alien the night. Cryptids hiding just out of sight. Sasquatch calling from the wild. Awful tales that'll drive you wild. Join the show, take a journey untold. Mysteries wait, stories unfold. Coley and Tim, they lead the way into the unknown. Let's drift away. Coley and Tim, they lead the way into the unknown. Let's drift away. Tim on the radio waves. Helix rocks where the mystery plays. Talking about the world beyond our own. UFOs and creatures that roam. Aliens and ghosts in the night. Cryptids hiding just out of sight. Sasquatch calling from the wild. Awful tales that'll drive you wild. Join the show, take a journey untold. Mysteries waiting, stories unfold. Coley and Tim, they lead the way into the unknown. Let's drift away. Let's drift away. Let's drift away.
Lights in the sky above, questions we can't shove, mysterious stories told, secrets that unfold. Experts share their tales, mysteries in the trails, whispers in the night, aliens in flight. Oh, UFOs are real, tell me what you feel. Aliens unseen, paranormal dream. Cryptids in the woods, Sasquatch understood. The unknown so surreal, cool news we reveal. Experts talk and share, mystery everywhere. Beyond the skies we gaze, eerie endless maze. Oh, UFOs are real, tell me what you feel. Aliens unseen, paranormal dream.
Only anarchists talking with leading experts about UFOs. Lights up in the sky, strange shapes passing by, whispers in the night, the unknown takes flight. Aliens and dreams, paranormal streams, secrets in the mist, hidden truths persist. Tell me what's up there, secrets we can share. UFOs and stars, mysteries so far. Cryptids in the woods, Sasquatch like it should. Echoes in the dark, leave a lasting mark. Experts leading way, truths they need to say, peeling back the veil, tales that never fail. Tell me what's out there, secrets we can share. UFOs and stars, mystery so far, Mr. Far. Cryptids in the woods, Sasquatch like it should. Echoes in the dark, leave a lasting mark. Cryptids in the woods, Sasquatch like it should. Echoes in the dark, leave a lasting mark. Cryptids in the woods, Sasquatch like it should. Echoes in the dark, leave a lasting mark. Cryptids in the woods, Sasquatch like it should. Echoes in the dark, leave a lasting mark. Cryptids in the way, truths they need to say, peeling back the veil, tales that never fail. Cryptids in the woods, Sasquatch like it should. Echoes in the dark, leave a lasting mark.
And we are back. Is everybody unmuted?
Yes.
I know we're probably jamming out. Yes. So, yeah, take it over, Drew.
I've been dying to ask this question of both Steve and Jim. Jim, I think I've asked this question before, but what I want to get a fresh answer from both of you. How much of this disclosure, like in the background, are they talking about consciousness? Like how much of this phenomenon is conscious? We all know the nuts and bolts is just for show. Like my personal belief is that's what this is all about, like the consciousness aspect, our evolution, and I believe we're talking to our future selves. What's your guys' take on that?
Steve, you want to
go? I don't have much faith at all in the time travel explanation. It's sci-fi, it's fun, but I would never put my money on that. In terms of consciousness, again, this term is just very muddy. It's just not well defined. It's used and thrown around, which is fine. I mean, I'm not people have the right to do that, but activism requires precision language. These entities, if these entities are sentient, they're conscious, and that's important, right? They're not machines. They're sentient entities. The fact that they're also telepathic is particularly noted. Is that a consciousness issue? No, but it certainly shows that their brains have the ability to do things that apparently we don't, though there are some humans that have demonstrated what seems to be legitimate telepathy. But obviously it is absolutely fundamental to the extraterrestrial world because it seems like every type of ET is able to do this. And so, again, this is a nuts and bolts approach. And so when the consciousness concept comes in, there's not much I can do with it other than they're sentient. So they have consciousness and self-awareness like we do. And maybe they have a few other things that we don't yet know about. It'll be interesting to find out. But there's the possibility they're bioandroids, which is an interesting idea. It's not ridiculous. And that is that they're essentially living things that are engineered out of living matter and then literally programmed to do certain things. So they're neither what we'd call a sentient being, nor are they a robot, somewhere in between. But again, we're just guessing. We don't know. So based upon the contactee reports, the descriptions and so forth, I barring additional information, I would assume that all of the gray types are sentient, and the reptoids, the insectoids, and certainly, the wonderful Nordics are all conscious, sentient beings that also have telepathic power. That's about where I'm at on it.
Gotcha, Jim. What's your take on it?
All right. Well, if I know people do have telepathic powers. my Sicilian grandmother, my grandfather was the head of the fishing fleet out of San Francisco Bay, starting when Nano got there in 1901, but starting about then, he moved most of the village of Isla della Femme off of Sicily to Pittsburgh, California. And Nana was the matriarch of the town. And when they went out fishing, they go up to Alaska, they're gone for 5 months. There's no communication. We're talking about 1910. This is pre-World War I. There wasn't even an internet. And the wives would come into my grandmother, said, Angelina, how much money does Giuseppe have in his pay envelope? And she said, in my dreams tonight, I will ask my great aunt, who's been long dead. And the next day, the woman came and she would write down what the amount was. And Nana was always within a couple dollars, and everybody got paid totally different every time they went up to Alaska to go fishing. But the real kicker, my mom was there, and she verified it, and same with all my aunts and uncles were still alive at the time. When you're anchored and you have your nets out and you're dealing with a 15 mile an hour outgoing tide, because you're up in Alaska, they have up to 45-foot tides there. And the water is so cold. It's in the 30s, maybe even the 20s, depending on where it's at. If you fell in the water, you're dead. They just continue, you're dead, because there's no way they could catch up with you. The current's too swift, and by the time they're dead, you die of hypothermia. And Nana woke up in the middle of the night screaming, Papa has fallen overboard. And of course, my mom, who was the youngest, and her other brothers and sisters were all in there, and said, Papa fell overboard, but he's okay. And so Nana wrote in her calendar where he fell in at about, she put down her time, because it happened he fell in at the exact same time that she woke up screaming. And she would do that. I mean, my mother could sense people and tell me all about them. So I know that stuff exists in the non scientific or UFO world. The only thing about it's an experience that is I don't want to sound like what's her face, but it's an experience experienced by people who haven't experienced something like that before. I mean, that's a crazy way of putting it, but I don't know. It's like trying to catch a vapor with your hands. You can see it; it's there. It has some form, you can feel it. But it's like trying to identify dark matter. I was up at Kitt Peak. They were putting together on the Mayall 4-meter telescope. They took the secondary mirror out, and they're putting 5,000 cameras there that they were going to look at the entire northern hemisphere, the northern sky, for over 5 years, and they intend to catalog 40 billion galaxies, and they're trying to determine how, since they can't see it, taste it, smell it, or see it, how do you measure dark energy? And that has an awful lot to do with what people don't know what's going on. And for years, you were talking about, Steve, you said, science. Science is always changing. Look what the age of the universe. 13.4 or 13.5 billion years until the James Webb Space Telescope saw something 1 billion years deeper in. So this is, this time of disclosure, this time of the world we're living in today, the next 18 months is probably going to be the most significant 18 months in the history of modern America.
I think our species, I take it a step further. I think it's for our species. It's going to be a crazy, next year. I would say, probably the next couple months. I would say would be crazy for our species itself. But getting back to the consciousness aspect and our relationship to ET, I've spent a lot of time with different indigenous tribes and different modalities, and the things that keep getting talked about is our relationship. They don't talk about them as visitors or guests or anything like that. They're talking about this is our ancestors, past, present, and future. Like, this is outside of our understanding of time. So the nuts and bolts, is this what the Hollywood disclosure is? This is what it's like more about, like the government disclosure, like the government someone of importance standing behind a podium and saying that there's UFOs? Because in my mind, like, we've already had disclosure over and over and over again. Like, I think the majority of the heartbeats on this planet, especially here in the United States, believe, we're not alone on this planet. I think the next question is, like, what is our relationship would be? Like, what is our relationship, and why are all these people reporting all these different things?
Well, there's a lot of things we want to know, and a lot of things we can know and should know. But until we get formal disclosure, which is what I'm interested in, small d disclosure is trivial. It's the revealing of information. It's been going on for 77 years. It's going on every day. New information is coming out. That's small d disclosure. That's not what this movement is about. The movement is about capital D disclosure. Formal confirmation by heads of state. Because until we get that formal confirmation by the heads of state, we're not going to have access to the vast majority of this information. It's going to remain classified. It's going to remain out of touch. And we're not going to be able to move forward. We're not going to be able to access the technology. So formal confirmation is the paradigm shift. Right? So that is what we're seeking. Once we get that, that's the key that unlocks a lot of doors. And then the question is, which doors we go through first? One of the doors eventually we will go through will be the ET human connection. Now, we've got a lot of information that we've gathered from ancient lore and texts and archaeology, which is non-trivial. Ancient Aliens has got a lot of real stuff there. Not all of it, but a good deal of it. It's a very good show. It's done a lot of good. And then there is the genetic connection. I happen to think there's a genetic connection. Ancestor may not be the proper term, but they very well may have dealt with our genetics at some point. I'm hearing a very busy noise there somewhere.
Yeah, Coley, can you mute your mic? I've been trying to mute it. Thank you.
So, I mean, and this is going to be fantastic. I mean, the fact that the Nordics look like just humans, I'd like to know how that is. I mean, I can guess, but it'd be nice to know for sure. The fact they're doing genetic work with humans right now, making hybrids, that's incredible. So if they've been doing it now, they've probably been doing it in the past. So the potential, the possibility is the one most logical thread that may come out is that, and by the way, this was not really a well thought out years ago. Recently, though, there have been many discoveries. I say recently, 40 years or so, that you go back in time, and there wasn't much understanding about the homo lines. They were trying to find a linear ancestor, cha-ching to humans. And eventually, what they discovered is there's a whole string of homo lines that never lasted. Right? They just went forward and went extinct. And so we are one of a number of lines that technically could have developed into what we call a fully high consciousness being. Only one. And it's very possible that is because they chose one, and they chose one. It was our line, and they modified us genetically so that we could develop into a fully conscious, sensitive, sentious being with the ability to become who we are. to become essentially technological and even interstellar. And the other ones, they only need one. And people say, why do they do it to 4 or 5? Because now you'd have 4 or 5 non-matable, possibly lines, becoming sentient on the same planet. And what does that mean? Well, they're going to fight even more. And so that may prove to be true. I'm very comfortable with that idea. There is a genetic connection to them. I think it's complicated, but more importantly, I believe that if you just look at the ETs that are described, it's obvious, and this doesn't get discussed much, maybe in some books, but I don't read books much, in that there seems to be a genetic connection to every one of the entities that are described in engaging with us. The insectoids, the reptoids, the Nordics, and the Greys. And I'm thinking that can't be an accident. So what am I trying to say? Insectoids look insect-like because there's insect DNA. The reptoids look reptoid-like because they contain reptoid DNA. They came from this planet. The Nordics look like humans. So obviously they have DNA from this planet. Maybe they may be 99% human for all we know. And the Greys don't look like us. However, it's the Greys that are most active on the genetic research and the hybridization. And so there's a genetic connection there. And so this is not a random group that got together and decided, let's hang out at the Earth. This is a group of entities that are connected to us in complex ways, possibly genetically. And the reason they are here now and so active is that they are well aware that we must get to, and will get to disclosure. And disclosure essentially opens the door to open contact. And they are the group that's on board. In other words, it's like a family reunion in a way. They are here because they have a connection to this planet that other entities may not have. And that's why they are here, as opposed to any one of countless other potential sentient beings with technology. This has not been discussed much, doesn't need to be discussed, but post-disclosure, it is going to come up. And we're going to start looking into this, though we may never get a definitive answer until we actually have open contact with these ETs and get thorough exchanges of information.
Tim, what you got to say, brother? Or you'll be right back. Okay.
I didn't hear you.
No, I was Tim was making a motion. I was trying to figure out what was going on. So I think we got figured out. Okay. What, Jim? You got something to say?
No, I let you know, I'm hearing impaired, so I miss things a lot.
No worries. I am too. 9 years in the military to do it. But yeah, it's I think we're on the same page. I believe. I believe there are ancestors, and I think there's a conscious connection. That's why I think we're at the verge of understanding that we're interstellar beings, and I think that's why they're here. I think we're on the verge of going through. That's what I was talking about earlier. The conscious evolution, whatever you want to call it. We're all starting to have deja vu more and more often. There's all these things happen in the 3D world around us that signify something major is happening. But yeah, I totally believe that this is a very important election. I think it's the election of our species. I was speaking the other night on SOR that I'm on Saturday and Sunday night about that. I had some visions a while back that Trump was going to be the last president of this current governmental structure, and when he lost to Biden, I was really questioning my vision. But now that he's running again, I think I'd be really surprised if he didn't win, and I'd be really surprised if there was another election after this. I think this is going to be the last election of our current governmental structure, and I think that's in a good way. I don't think that's like in a apocalyptic way. I think it's in a reset. I got something in my hole. What's your take on that, guys? Whoever can answer first.
On a grim future or a bright future, or it's going to be.
Yeah. Do you think the future of our government? How's it going?
Well,
Cooley, we're back in a minute.
I know there's a lot of people in Washington D.C. are really worried because Elon has already told President Trump when he said the budget's was 7.2 trillion. He said, "What I've been thinking is, I know I can cut 2 trillion out of that number." And he cut, I just viewed it from the fringes. But when he bought Twitter, he got rid of 83% of the staff. They had some hiccups, but it's working. Well, there's still too many people from Facebook in there, because I got banned from X for saying that referring to the butcher Benghazi, and that the penalty for treason is death. And they assumed that I was threatening. I named the person by name, so you must know who I'm talking about. So, and I don't give a shit. I'm almost 80 years old. I've had a lot of doors slammed in my face, and I'm still here, and I'm still ornery. But one interesting thing I want to throw in there, as far as what is the potential of life outside of our solar system. I was a docent up at Kitt Peak National Observatories for a number of years, and that's when they were modifying the Mayall 4-meter telescope to do the dark energy research. But one of our 2.1 meter telescope was utilized by Caltech for 5 years using adaptive optics. They shine a UV laser up in the sky, and at exactly 18 miles, it had to be a specific diameter. And this lens would change its shape based on the atmospheric distortion 1,200 times a second, and had fairly close to the same resolution as Hubble, except we only have a certain time in the evening, but as the Hubble could stare at something for quite some time. And in the course of 5 years and a very, very small part of the Milky Way, Caltech cataloged 8,000 exoplanets. And just before I had to retire as being a docent, I had needed a full knee replacement, and it's all up and down there. And but just before I left, they had a meeting of all of the astronomers, technicians, and docents for they didn't have beer. It was popping pizza because it was on the university proper there at the NOAO. And he had just, and I wish I should have written his name, but I'm terrible on names. But I have a fairly good memory of what he said. He had just returned from a worldwide conference on exoplanets. And he said, based on proven mathematical formulas, they calculate for every star in the universe, there's 1.5 planets. And out of that incredible number, I mean, you can't even, I don't even know what to the power it would be as far as the number of planets. But in that same conversation, he said there are 2 billion, and he emphasized, and that's with a B, there's 2 billion Earth-like planets orbiting a similar sized brown dwarf star as our sun in the inhabitable zone with liquid water. And my comment is that, to quote Jodie Foster's character in the movie Contact, if we're the only ones, what a waste of space. So,
what you're saying is hope.
Are they here? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my boss, he retired as Major General. His name was Wayne Gatlin. He was a major, and he was flying F-94Cs, and I got a call there was a bogey over Lake Superior. This is out of Duluth, Minnesota. They launched 3 F-94Cs The object was being tracked by the Finley Air Force Station. This is the 1950s. And General Gatlin said, because I asked him, what do you believe in UFOs? He said, yeah, I chased one. And he said he was the lead aircraft. And every time his weapons system operator, his WISO, would try to lock on the weapons radar, the thing would just die. He'd have to pull the circuit breaker, reset it. And every time, absolutely every time they tried to lock on, it wouldn't lock on. So an F-94C can only run for less than 90 seconds on afterburner, unlike its big brother, the Blackbird, can go hour and a half. So you're very mission critical, you're very fuel critical, but they're heading towards Finley, and General Gatlin is talking to Finley on radio, and it's heading right towards him. And Finley says, yeah, it was coming right towards us. We lost it. And General Gatlin, who's squinting at see, and it was an orb. It was something that was perfectly round. He said it's directly over your geodesic dome, because they had to get protection from winter. It's on Lake Superior in northern Minnesota. It gets to 60 below zero up there. But and as General Gatlin started getting closer, all of a sudden this thing took off and went straight. He said it went straight up, and if you stared long enough, or you were in a tube and looked up, you could see the stars. But it was middle of the day. He said, and it was unlimited sight on that thing. So they saw it. I don't know how. They don't know when they lost track of it, but it was way the heck up there. And since it was directly over the Finley Air Force Station, they couldn't move their antenna to point straight up to look for it. So that's my assumption. Right? We have Dave Fruhoff chased one on an SR-71. It left him in the dust. I've asked
to say that their tech is much more advanced than ours is an understatement. I say they very loosely, but
everybody, when they go to a museum or saw it when they fly and say, oh, gee, that SR-71 is really an incredible machine. It's really high tech. But really, it was designed in the 1950s by an engine that was a generic engine for the Navy for a Mach 2.7 fleet defense interceptor. And Kelly just liked all the numbers on the J-75 and the J-57. They've used them on the U-2s.
Do you think the SR-71 was reverse engineered from Roswell crash?
Absolutely not. No.
Not enough time?
I've helped take one apart. Actually, I've helped take two apart. And that was 981 at Beale. That's when the C model, the bastard, that's at Hill Air Force Base. And of course, A-12 went number 128. That yesterday was the 33rd anniversary of flying from Travis to Minneapolis in a New York Air Guard C-5 with an A-12 Blackbird inside, with me in the cockpit of the Blackbird for about 45 minutes. That was my claim. I called Ben Rich when I got home. I said, Ben, I got something. You won't believe what it is. I said, what is it? He said, I have a Blackbird record that no one will ever touch. I said, what was that? I said, I sent you a shot of 128 being late, put into a C5. We had about an inch of clearance, inch and a half of clearance. And it was 19 feet wide, 103 feet long, but it was about 11 feet at the highest point, and that fit perfectly inside a C5. And I told him going from Travis to Minnesota, we were about 45 minutes out. The loadmaster was a chief master sergeant. I was a tech sergeant at the time in the Minnesota Guard. I said, hey, can I go down and with you? And he said, normally he would say no, but since this is your project from the beginning to the end, absolutely. So he went down. he was going to be there, down there for a while. So I climbed up in the landing gear. We had the wings cut off at Wing Station 112. Walked along the chines. I had a wheel chock opening, keeping the canopy open because the counterbalance was out of nitrogen. And I went in there and I had a bucket with a cushion I had there before we loaded at Palmdale. And it was perfect. I closed the canopy. I'm in there, and I'm in the cockpit of a CIA A-12 Blackbird, and I'm at 33,000 feet at Mach 0.72 inside another airplane. And Ben said he was laughing so hard he almost wet his pants. So in his book on the Skunk Works, My Life of the Skunk Works, he sent me one of the last copies, and he said, "Proud crew chief of number 128." I talked to him once a quarter for almost 20 years. I don't even know how I got on his call list, but I was. So, but
that's great. Was it facing forward at least? Was the plane facing forward, or was you?
Oh, absolutely. It was. Okay. Facing
at least forward. You're not flying backwards.
Backwards. No. When it took a whole C5 to haul the outer wing panels and engine nacelles because they were one piece.
Wow.
So, but that was the most fun. One of the most fun things I've ever done in my life. They couldn't do it today. It would be impossible.
Yeah.
But because of my involvement with stuff like that, I get involved with John Andrews, and because of John Andrews, I get involved with John Lear, and because of John Lear's, I met Bob Lazar. He'd only been here in Vegas about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and very soft-spoken guy. You didn't believe in UFOs. He said you couldn't put a gun to my head and convince me they were real. And he changed his tune. So
how long ago was that?
January of '89.
That's when he changed his mind in January '89.
Well, that's when they were up. He had been at Sandia, and they were upgrading his Q clearance. So he was being paid, and he just wasn't going out in the desert yet. But he didn't know what he was going to be working on, and they liked his credentials. The guy's smart, and he has a photographic memory. Because one of the first things I asked him when I saw him 2 years ago, and 2 years ago in May, I was up at his house. I said, "You remember what you told me the first time we met?" He said, "Yeah, that I didn't believe in UFOs." I said, "Yeah, that statement." He said, "Yeah, I remember that. I said that. And you couldn't put a gun to my head to convince me they were real." Yeah. So I don't think he was a plant.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had the reaction from the 2-star admiral at the Pentagon when I was there for Desert Shield and Desert Storm. That was quite an event. I had his W-2.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know where that Department of the Navy was because it wasn't listed in the Pentagon directory. So.
No, I think a lot of people are eating their words over the past couple of years, especially with Lazar. Just him alone. In the whole community in general, a lot of people have been eating their words over the past year or so. But they've been lying to us for a long, long time. Like they've been keeping a secret for a long, long time, and it's finally coming out. And this is what I think was being talked about earlier, which. The trust of the government, the trust of disclosure of the government. I don't think it was.
I'm a retired master sergeant. I was proud of my time in the service. I wouldn't trust our government today to take out the garbage.
No, I did 9 years in the Army, 2 tours in Iraq. I held a secret security clearance when I was in. I was a forward observer. I got to know all the weapon systems of our artillery, our fast movers, our rotary wing aircraft, all the weapon systems I knew. That's what my secret security clearance was about. It wasn't anything really interesting. I just knew weapon systems.
Yeah.
But just the amount of investigation and everything went into just that secret level. I tried out for Special Forces in 2006 and went through the TS screening and all that, but I didn't get picked up right, by special forces at the end. So I didn't continue on in the process, but I know I know what goes into security clearances just at the low level, just at classified secret and top secret. So I know the levels that go above that, they have to really dig into. I mean, they were talking to my grade school teachers for the TS, of how it was in grade school.
I had a top secret. Actually, I actually had the same clearance as the wing commander, since I was an Air Force historian, and I was the wing historian, and I was on state staff. So anywhere the general went, I was usually there. Even having that clearance, I never heard anything that I went, oh, I didn't know that. I mean,
right.
My job during Desert Shield and Desert Storm was to brief the news people on what's happening in Southeast Asia. And I would watch CNN to get that briefing, and then I'd be reading for no foreigners, all sorts of garbage all over it. So, but I can see it. I had the clearance for it, and I'm looking at it, and as I'm reading it, it wasn't quite word for word, but the guy on CNN is reading the same message. This is top secret or secret, with all sorts of other things hanging on it. And I saw everything that Schwarzkopf saw, and I saw everything that went to and from CENTCOM. And my job was to read every single message and pull anything having to do with the National Guard, Army Guard, or the Air Guard. I was a wing historian for the Minnesota Guard. I was in state staff at the time. And it was fascinating. I mean, I read the flight logs every morning of what airplanes were there, their call signs, where they're out of. And I'm looking for a type of aircraft, or say UFO, or have a little flying saucer emblem in there. And I looked, and I didn't see it, and I was sorely disappointed at it. But
there's our fearless leader.
Yeah.
Steve, I want to ask you before I give the mic back to Coley. Have you had experience yourself personally with UFO? And if so, what was your very first one like?
I've never had an experience with UFO or ETs of any kind.
Me either. I mean, I've been out there. I've been at the black mailbox saying, "Okay, you can read my mind, abduct me, but let me bring my Nikon with me." And I've been out near the fence line in the area on 80 to 90 different occasions over the last 40 years. So my opportunities to see something, everything I saw in the air, I could explain what it was. I mean, it was. The first time I saw an F-117, I thought it was changing shape, but because it faceted and the sun was low, it was the reflections were. I mean, it looked like it was changing shape. And as you look at an F-117 head on, it looks like a flying saucer profile. So, but I would have loved to have seen something. Hell yeah. I mean, I place myself out there, freeze my butt off on top of a mountaintop above the Groom Range, hoping that something's going to fly by that I don't recognize. And never happened. Just
come set in the San Luis Valley. We're dead in between Cheyenne Mountain and all the bases in New Mexico. During the day, we got all types of different craft, military craft flying back and forth in between the bases. But at night, we have all types of different craft flying back and forth. Like I've filmed them.
Yeah.
In 2018, I'll give this real quick. In 2018, after walking through Chaco Canyon, exploring Chaco Canyon and looking at all the petroglyphs, I sang a Native American prayer song in Lakota in that canyon that evening as the sun was setting. Drove back to the B&B, had dinner with my wife. It was our first or second anniversary. This was our B&B was in Cortez, Colorado, about an hour and a half north of
I've been there.
of Chaco, and it's very close to the Four Corners. That night, I had face-to-face contact with ET. What was really jarring about that was the dream I had about 1 to 2 weeks after that, was when I went through the same experience and understood that was my future self. So I'll leave it at that. Cooley, what you got?
You know what? I'm just listening, and are you guys able to hear me okay? Because I'm streaming on a different device. Steve, like, I'd love to get to know your perspective more, and I'm just wondering if you would be open to coming to, like, understand, I guess, more of, you know, our perspective as experiencers, and maybe kind of try and bridge that gap. I mean, eventually we're going to have to work together.
There's no gap. I have talked with dozens and dozens of experiencers and contactees.
You're killing me with this.
I am quite familiar with the phenomena. And
you don't think that there's a gap between the experiencers and the non-experiencers? Does anybody else see that, or is it just me?
Well, yeah, of course there's a gap. It's like you've had extraordinary experiences that other people have not had. And because of the truth embargo, there was a great reluctance on the part of most contactees to share that. And so they didn't. Now, obviously, that's getting better all the time. And increasingly, contactees are less and less concerned about talking about their experiences. But there's still a ways to go. The approach I'm taking is straightforward enough. Disclosure opens the doors for everyone, including the contactees. And so it's a matter of patience. Sometimes you have to be patient when it comes to activism and achieving outcomes, because you're trying to get the authorities and media and everything else to go a place they may not want to go. And so you can't bludgeon them. You can't force them. You have to guide them. You have to use diplomacy. You have to. It's what activism is. And right now, the contactees are on the sideline. They're not ignored. There's books about them, movies about them, documentaries about them. Many have spoken publicly.
Right.
But they're not central.
We're all here. Yeah. No. And I'm not saying that, but my main concern is that, you know, like I was like a part of a team, like we wanted to force disclosure. That way the government couldn't grab that narrative and then take off with it again. Because, you know, that's always a possibility. And then anytime you see anything, it's like, oh, Project Bluebeam. Oh, this, like, it's the last thing and people are mimicking it and, you know, making jokes out of it. So I feel like if I don't know, I feel like there has to be a bridge between the two of us. But I mean, we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's definitely coming down the line. So
there's no gap for me. I see the funny stuff. I mean, it's been made fun of on The Simpsons. It's been made fun of in various cartoons and so forth. That is essentially society trying to get comfortable. When society's uncomfortable with things, they'll kind of make a joke about it as a way of engaging it without getting too close. This is not unusual. The process is underway, but this is a very special situation. It's never. I don't think anything like it has ever happened. Maybe in the human race, though ancient times, it's hard to gauge what happened then. But in the last 77 years, the things that have taken place are just off the charts. And so we are headed towards open contact. We are headed towards full disclosure. We are headed towards contactees being on everybody's Thanksgiving dinner list. It's all going to get better. Okay? All right. And I ask people to try to be patient while we work this out. The public is involved. There's a lot of citizen groups. There's new organizations being formed already, anticipating the post-disclosure world. The Civil Foundation that Gary Nolan launched, based out of Stanford with a lot of top scientists, is not about getting disclosure. It's about getting ready for post-disclosure because they know it's coming. The UAP Disclosure Fund. The UAP Disclosure Fund is the first 501c4 organization capable of raising tax-deductible funding that they are going to use to affect the politics of the post-disclosure world, right? That they're literally looking ahead to that. Hollywood
Who's funding that? Who's funding that?
Don't know. I'm sure they're trying to get funding.
I thought maybe somebody had come forward.
They haven't divulged it. It's still going to be difficult to get funding. It's not easy, but it's going to get better. The truth embargo has been incredibly successful in preventing people who have plenty of money to invest in this. Just won't do it. And that's kept this issue more contained. 50, 100 million bucks, and we could have had the end of the truth embargo years ago. But they're wealthy people that will donate their money to who they want, and you can't force them to do it. The government has basically made it so uncomfortable for them to touch this issue that they don't do it. So that's the way it is, you accept it.
Right.
But that's going to change. So there are already entities gearing up for the post-disclosure world. It is going to come. There are things that could delay it. And what can you do? A use of a tactical nuke in Ukraine is going to delay this and everything else. An invasion of Taiwan could delay it. Another pandemic could delay it. The political upheaval right now is already delaying it, but it's not like that. It's just kind of slowing it down. The disclosure process is now irreversible. Every witness that comes forward makes it easier for another witness to come forward. There's so many coming forward, they can't keep track of them all. Every whistleblower that comes forward, which is not a witness, that's special, it makes it easier for another whistleblower to come forward. And so we have an irreversible process. It's like an avalanche coming down the mountain. And that's a question of when does it reach the bottom? It could be very soon. It could happen like that. And that's what I'm pushing for. Let's get it done. And as I say, I think we have a perfect opportunity in the 71 days between the election and inauguration. Get it done, get it out, so the new president, whoever they are, will start their presidency already in the post-disclosure world, without having to go through all that falderall, and then they can devote their attention to ensuring that it goes well. And that's going to be a matter of legislation. It's going to be a matter of obeying whatever the legislation requires. But it will move quickly, because once that is finally done, that the gates open, the public interest goes to the moon, skyrockets, and so things will move pretty quick.
So I'm just throwing this out there. Do you think it would be beneficial at all? I mean, you are a huge part of the community. Obviously, you're separate and doing your own little thing. But would you be willing to try and cross events? Or so I think if other people heard from you directly, maybe they'd be more apt to buy into it more. Or do you not need our help?
I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of events and podcasts. I've never. If I'm sure that there are contactees that have had me on their show. In no way do I shy away from engaging contact.
I absolutely not. No, but I'm saying, so from Drew's perspective, like we have an event coming up with Grant Cameron and stuff in May, and Laura Eisenhower, and a lot of the consciousness and the spiritual side of it. Would you be open to coming to the event?
Well, I do that. I have been to such events. Okay. I just was at the New Life Expo recently. I'm not unopposed to it. I go, but I'm not in that genre, right?
No, people. But I think it would be good though.
I have shared conferences with those speakers, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. I stick to my subject. I'm not into those areas. I'm not into those zones. But I have colleagues that are. That's fine. That's fine. But again,
I just think it's important for you to be a presence in all of this if this is where you're going, and you've been a leader in this, and so I'm just wondering, and I'd be more than willing, and I think that you would get a lot more receptive, because you got to sell this to the people too. This has got to be sold to the people, and that's my main concern, is that they come out and this is not going to get sold. And if it's not sold to the people who have experienced, like all of us on the panel that have, or except for Jim and you, that it's like there's no doubt in our minds. Like it's a totally different type of reality than I see, because it's like once you encounter that, I couldn't say that 50 foot in diameter, 30 feet away from me was anything like, but off world. Like it was just completely crazy the way it moved. And in that moment on changed my life completely. But there are things like that we can, and like you talked about, like the telekinesis, and Drew's like amazing at this part of it too. And he's got, like I said, we're planning an event, and I think that if it doesn't go down by May, like hopefully it doesn't anyway, but I think it's really important for us to embrace one another and understand. And I know that I've always said this about you. Like, you asked Steve to come on, he's on it. He does not ask any questions. You know what I mean? You've always been willing to come on, and I appreciate that. And you've always been very honest, and I appreciate that. I'm just saying that I think we're getting to a point that if we're going to really sell this to the community, like, and I saw what it did last time, that it may be beneficial just to, and bring some of your colleagues and then share that. Like, maybe just kind of help you to understand a little bit more from where this is coming from, or where, people would feel comfortable enough to say to the government, okay, yeah, what do we do now? So what do you think, I guess after in the post-disclosure, can you give me do you have steps like this is happening? Because people anticipate freak out, right? Like, people are going to go,
freak out? No, I don't think so. I don't think so
either. But that seems to be a big concern by people. Like, well, what's the drip disclosure about then?
A drip disclosure.
Like with the TTSA and like all that stuff, like what was there? Do you think they harmed this, or do you think they helped this?
No. The full story of the TTSA is going to come out eventually. It's complicated. The origin story is not fully known because it originated within the military intelligence complex itself.
Yep.
But it launched this 7-year period exactly 7 years ago, practically on October the 11th, when they came out. There was some indication something was coming, but I really didn't know exactly what until they showed up. But I knew something was coming as early as March of 2016. They were supposed to launch, I'm pretty sure, after Hillary Clinton took office. When she did not win, they stepped back and ultimately made the decision to come out a year later in October of 2017. And as I've said many times, the coming out of the TTSA was the beginning of the end of the truth embargo. And the reason I say that is that when I went to the website and read the bios of the 10 people that were essentially the group, led by Tom DeLonge, which is fine, but my interest was not in Tom. It was in the 10 people that came out, and they were all members of the military intelligence complex, retired, and they had come out together, and they represented almost every segment of the military intelligence complex. The CIA, the DIA, the Navy,
NSA,
the NS, not sure about the NSA, the Congress, the political arena, the science arena, and I realized what had happened. And what had happened is that 2017, basically 70 years after Roswell, enough consensus and build up within the military intelligence complex, within the people that work there, who a huge portion of which had known the ET thing is real, enough consensus had built up that it was time to end the embargo, that a group, probably with backing of others who were going to remain employed, made the decision in retirement to come out and put at risk prospects for post-retirement contracts and income and so forth, and also create problems for themselves to come out and take this issue head on. They came out in a corporation, a public benefit corporation, that had a multiple agenda, because if it were to make money, that would be good, because they were probably giving up a lot of income by doing this, and that would generate money that would be good for them. So it was a relatively wise and beneficial way to do this. But their intent was obvious to me, maybe not so much to others. And so I knew that this was the beginning of the end. Then the question was, what were they going to do? How soon would they begin their program, and what would they do? And we didn't have to wait long. We only had to wait 2 months. I was in the UK watching this from London. And what happened is it had been going on in the background, but then it popped out December 16th when they were able to convince the New York Times to publish those 2 articles covering those stories. There were 3 or 4 stories embedded in those articles. That's Kane, that's Blumenthal. They wrote it with Cooper, Elaine Cooper. All 3 of them should have gotten the Pulitzer Prize. They may eventually get it based on some rules they have about, I don't know, body of work or whatever the hell. And then those stories dropped. And at that point, I knew that, okay, yeah, this is it. It's just a question of how long it's going to take as we move forward and how smooth it's going to go. As it happened, it was a tough one because politically we were in chaos, upheaval, divided, contention. And so it was difficult, but they pushed, and they moved things forward. The first 2 years was mostly behind the scenes, but it finally broke public. It was like they were swimming underwater from October of 2016, or rather 2017, December 16, 2017. They were swimming underwater until mid-2020, when we learned that Marco Rubio was going to put some legislation into the NDAA related to this phenomena, the first piece of legislation ever relating to this phenomena. And then from 2020, we're picking up speed and moving forward, in spite of the fact that we had a massive pandemic that killed millions of people, cost trillions of dollars, incredibly disruptive. We had still a lot of political chaos. Then we had a war launched in Europe that has left Europe in DEFCON 2 now continuously since that day. All of that happened, and yet they continued to move forward with 3 tranches of legislation, now 4. And so we are 7 years in, and we have reached the point where all that remains from what started in 2017 is a major hearing in front of the Senate Intel Committee and confirmation from the president, and it's done. It's over. The truth embargo ends, and we enter the post-disclosure world, which is a whole new set of variables, a whole new set of challenges, but they will be accompanied by a lot of truth, because the disclosure event is going to force the government to get in the truth business, whether it wants to or not. I think a lot of people will welcome that opportunity because most people don't like to lie. They would just like to serve their country without the lying. And then others will realize that there's no other course of action here. And so we will get in the truth zone. Now, the longer we stay in that zone, the faster trust in government will be recovered. When you lie to people, you lose their trust. How do you get it back? Lie better, pay them to believe you even when you're still lying. How do you get it back? The only way you get trust back is tell the truth, not once, not twice, but repeatedly over time. And eventually people realizing you no longer lie, you tell the truth. And that's what has to happen. And they're not there yet. But the fact that they can start with the truth so profound would be nice. In other words, we're willing to tell you something we've been holding for 70 years. It's unbelievably important. And you can count us to keep telling you the truth going forward. This is what I'm anticipating happening. And the implications for our country and its future and possibly other countries that have to deal with dysfunctional America are staggering. Everything is on the line here. This is it, right? I mean, you could live 100 lifetimes and not come close to something of this magnitude. And so I have a certain respect for that, and honor that. This is a big deal. And so to the extent that we can be true to it, we can be humble in the face of it, we can succeed. And at this point, we could get the job done no later than January 20. I hope.
Let's hope so. Yeah. So after that, we're at the top of our second break, and then Drubers. See, this is what happened. I really, technology. The first day, this is always what happens. Anyway, let's take a break. We'll come back and reconvene. Steve, would you be willing to take some questions from the?
Yeah.
chat?
A couple of questions.
Yeah, we've got a good, great. So we'll go ahead and we'll take our break, and we'll see you guys shortly.
Okay.
Yeah, we got 200 people watching across all the platforms we're at. We just broke 200. We're at 201 right now.
Yeah.
That's it.
Awesome.
We're gonna get disclosure one podcast at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Well, we got about 200K total. So yeah, this is doing good. And I will figure out how I did this, right, Drew?
Yeah. Yeah, it's on you, Cooley. Go for it.
I shouldn't be allowed. I should be allowed to touch this. This takes me back to the Space Out Radio days. Okay, I got this. Stay tuned for the music. Until then, I'm sorry, but my voice is gonna be it. Okay.
Light in the sky, I see mysteries calling me. Truth in the stars aligned. Voices from the great mind. Expert voices, they say. Glowing secrets each day. Whispers on the cool breeze. Hidden truths in the trees. Light unveil the grand tale. Let our hearts never fail. Extraordinary ways. Guide us through every phase. Eyes on the cosmic side. Filling darkness with light. Truth in the endless night. Mystery shining bright. Voices we learn so much. Worlds we will soon touch. With each question we grow. Reading experts we know. Light unveil the grand tale. Let our hearts never fail. Extraordinary ways. Guide us through every phase. Light in the sky, I see mysteries calling me. Truth in the stars aligned. Voices from the submission down in the underworld. Access codes into truth unfurled. Aliens lurking in the shadows cold. Paranormal tales never get old. Cryptid Sasquatch in the forest gloom.
Calling Marcus, talking with leading experts about UFOs, ET aliens, paranormal cryptids.
Evidence from distant stars. Questions we dare to ask. Footsteps and forces afar. Mysteries in our grasp.
Helix rocks where the mystery plays. Talking about the world beyond our own. UFOs and creatures that roam. Aliens and ghosts in the night. Cryptids hiding just out of sight. Sasquatch calling from the wild. Off-world tales that'll drive you wild. Join the show, take a journey untold. Mysteries wait, stories unfold. Coley and Tim, they lead the way into the unknown. Let's drift away. Coley and Tim, they lead the way into the unknown. Let's drift away.
Light in the sky I see. Mysteries calling me. Truth in the stars aligned. Voices from the great mind. Expert voices, they say. Glowing secrets each day. Whispers on the cool breeze. Hidden truths in the trees. Light unveil the grand tale. Let our hearts never fail. Extraordinary ways. Guide us through every phase. Eyes on the cosmic side. Filling darkness with light. Truth in the endless night. Mystery shining bright. Voices we learn so much. Worlds we will soon touch. With each question we grow. Reading experts we know. Light unveil the grand tale. Let our hearts never fail. Extraordinary ways. Guide us through every phase. Light in the sky I see. Mysteries calling me. Truth in the stars aligned. Voices from the great mind.
All right, welcome back. So this is, everybody can hear? Probably but me. Tim, did you want to go through the chat real quick and kind of pull some stuff off of there or questions? I don't know what's going on
One
here.
from Michael
There
earlier.
we go.
And I know Steve's already touched on some of this, but he's asking, Steve, what are your expectations for the upcoming UAP congressional hearing on November 13th? Same question for all the panel, especially Jim, but I don't think Jim's here anymore. So.
Yeah, you know, Jim apologized. He had to get going. So, yeah, he said it was a great show. Loved being around everybody. But, yeah, he had to get going.
That's just a rumor. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I heard on another podcast.
Go ahead. Who was the question for Steve? Can you hear you? Oh, I wonder if you can hear.
Oh, hold
Steve,
on.
you're not able to hear?
Hold on, I got it.
Fine.
I got it.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Steve. Sorry, that's my fault.
That's all right. So, yeah, Nancy Mace is determined to have that hearing. There was some pushback, I think, from some members of the some of the ranking, or not ranking, but chairmen of some committees that said, "Don't do it." She said, "Nah, I'm doing it." I'm aware of 2 witnesses that apparently are going to be there. They're not bad, but she needs more. I hope she can get up to like 4. I'm trying to get at least 1 witness in there, and I've approached a number of offices. We'll see how that goes. It'll be a good hearing. It will get into other areas. It won't have, I think, the punch that the Grush hearing had, but still, it's going to be good. It'll generate some good media and keep the issue alive, and make it a little easier for the effort underway to try to get Mark Warner to call the hearing in the Senate. So that's what I expect. I expect to be there. I intend to be in that room. I kind of know how to do that. So I shall use some tricks to get in there early. Yeah. So I intend to be in that room.
Follow you in? Is the public go in? Probably not.
It is public, but it's a small. Well, look, one thing we're waiting to find out is what room are they going to use. They obviously had a lot of people that wanted to get in the last one, and they had to go up in the TV room. So maybe there's going to be even greater interest this time. So it's possible they may try to get a bigger briefing room. That would be nice. We'll see.
Yeah, that would be. Let me know. Send it out there. Maybe we can get some people there, because that's really, what it's all about. Definitely. Do you have any? I don't know. These congressional hearings tend to end up nowhere, so I don't have a lot of faith in them. Are you familiar with Jesse Marcel? He did the HHS release, the whistleblower. Okay. I didn't know.
I know Jesse Marcel. What are you referring to about Jesse?
No, that the HHS he had released documents from the Department of Homeland Security. He's coming on our show anyway. I talked to him. Yeah, him and Darcy Weir had done a documentary on it.
Okay. It's hard to keep up with all the documentaries coming out, but Jesse Marcel is a great kid. Like him, and I'm glad that he's getting some things together and is going to be out there. That's good.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, do we have another? We're kind of other questions that you guys saw in the chat. I know there's a ton of them coming through. I didn't keep a very good eye on it.
I don't see too many coming through on YouTube. However, one thing I did want to touch on, we were talking about Bob Lazar earlier, and I don't think I've ever heard Steve's opinion on Bob.
Well, I've been asked many times. I'm leaning.
Now you can answer.
I think Bob Lazar, in fact, was at that Area 51. I think it's a complex, somewhat messy story for various reasons. But if I had to put my money down, my money is that he was on that base and had access to things. I've heard a number of accounts to how that went, why it didn't work out, and so forth. But fundamentally, I think he's got it right. But he was there. Now, there are aspects of it that I don't think are going to hold up. Nothing unusual about that. If we get disclosure, Bob might get vindicated. It'd be kind of nice if the government would vindicate him. That would be a good gesture on the part of the government. There are a lot of people that need a little of that. But he's had a rough time. But I don't think they forced him to go. They offered him something, and he went, dangled it. I don't think it was his thing. I think it was he wasn't the right person to be in that slot, and it just went bad. And as a result, it had to be dealt with, and so it ended up being pretty messy. I think he's doing okay these days. They did a documentary on him, or maybe another. So in the end, it'll work out. I think.
Talking about. They're building a whole IR. What is it? Project Graviton? I would probably mutilate the words. Anyway, but what do you think? Okay, so this is what's confusing, and then I'll step back for my question. But why? I'm being told that there's going to be something the government's releasing around Christmas time that's going to discredit, in fact, a quarter of a big chunk of the UFO community. And I'm not sure if you're aware of that or not. Like the CSA,
there's rumors.
Well, I heard it from Richard Doty, and he said Bassett was one of them.
There are lots of rumors flying around. I tend to just watch them. I don't get into them much. Something has a.
But that almost seems like it's, you know what I mean? Like we're doing this, but then on the other hand, we're gonna come out and discredit. And Rick Doty, up and down, and he gave me some of the names. And I don't know, Stanton Friedman, he talked about Bob Lazar, how he's only there for 2 weeks, just different things like that. Some different stories that haven't been told accurately or things, but I heard that's what I heard. So I don't know if that's a part of cleaning it up or cleaning this up, but it almost in a way seems like counterproductive. Are we building distrust? Or are we? Telling
we're trying to end the truth embargo. Until the truth embargo was ended, we're all doing a little dance in the dark, bumping into the furniture. And so I don't invest a lot of time into the difficulties that this embargo creates. I try to focus on getting it ended. And then we'll have less rumors, less speculations, more science, more facts. And we might even have open contact with ETs at some point. The truth embargo has lasted a long time. We've been operating within that space. It's not a good place to be. Some people are not ready to leave that space. I appreciate that. I am ready to leave that space. And so you get my attention, you got to have something juicy. It's got to have some backing. And then I'm willing to give a little bit of time to it. The rest is just kind of flying by in the ether. We'll see.
Right. Awesome.
And there's been lots of predictions, too, about dates and things. I expected that. And it's always a way to get attention. Pick a date, say something's going to happen. People are going to listen. I get it. No problem. I don't invest a lot of time in those dates much. That doesn't mean that one can speculate when something may happen. But there's been a lot of, I learned that there's going to be such and such on such and such a day in December or whatever the hell. I don't put too much credence in it.
Me either. Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. Well, that's awesome. I really appreciate you coming on, and we're cutting into a little bit of Drew's show. So I don't know, Drew, if you have any more questions for Steve or how you wanted to proceed.
No, just
but this time I'm handing the mic over to you. Yeah.
I don't think I got much left.
We've covered it.
What you want me to talk about?
Yeah. Whatever you want to talk about, Drew. It's and Drew's gonna have his own, and we'll be segmented. He'll be taking hours through, so it's gonna be super cool. Just give us a week or two to get this all ironed out, because there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. That's a lot. But we're getting it out there. Let me tell you, Steve, we'll get that out there, and we'll get your message out there too. And I'm willing to help and share however I can. So if you want to pass it along, and
you have my address. You can always send something if you got something that you think is important. Go ahead and fire it in.
Sure.
That's okay.
I think it's going to be more beneficial for you. I don't think you're going to find what I have to say that important right now. I would love to hear how maybe some of us can help stop the truth embargo. That definitely needs to stop. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So do we need to write letters? What would help? That's all I'm saying. If you have a campaign like that, I'd be more than happy to be a part of it and share it.
The citizen involvement is being nicely channeled by the New Paradigm Institute. They've got some money. They put together programs and so forth that the money allows them to do. So go to New Paradigm Institute, and there's some ways you can, as a citizen, there's petitions, there's the ability to contact members of Congress. And there's a citizen disclosure movement thing. So that's where I think it's easy to connect up with as a citizen. New Paradigm Institute. I'm not big enough to be able to do those kinds of things, but I do have some plans to do some projects. Got to raise about 25,000, and I'll be able to do that. So,
I
New
think
Paradigm.
you're bigger than what you think you are. So, are you affiliated with the New Paradigm Research Group? I saw that.
I'm working closely with them.
Okay.
I'm working closely with them, helping them in any way that I can, but I'm not formally involved in the nonprofit.
Okay. Great. That's great to know. So, yeah, we thank you so much for coming on and look forward to, we'll definitely, once we get this going, we'll have you back on for a more suitable interview.
Let's see how the hearing goes.
I really appreciate yeah. There you go. After the hearing, that'd be great. And like I said, we'll send you out some invites too. Yes, coming up.
Okay.
So I'll book that with you shortly. Yes. I look forward to hearing from you. So thank you again.
Good luck.
Any last words?
Yeah, let's just end the truth embargo one podcast at a time. That's what it takes.
Right.
We'll do it.
We can all agree on that. So that's great.
All right, folks. You have a good evening. I'm going to go to bed.
You too. Bye. Thank you for bearing with us. Bye, Steve.
We need more people like you. I really appreciate being able to talk with you.
I think you lost him. Are you talking to Steve or me?
I was, but I think he's gone. Well.
I just thought you were talking to me, Tim. I was going to eat it up. So, yeah, I guess, and I'm going to zip it. But Drew's going to be taking you, like, this is, and even some stuff, like, I definitely got to talk to you guys about, but we got some really exciting stuff coming up. And I'm really excited. And Drew, your family, and I'm glad that you're here. So, welcome.
Yeah.
Virtual hug. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
I love you, Drew.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Yeah, let's go fix these technical issues and put together a quality show. Like to be.
Right.
Yeah, it was a good show. It was a good show, but
God.
Yeah, we definitely got to work out some kinks. Definitely got to work out some kinks, but I've been talking over this past weekend about the whole Trump thing and him mentioning UFOs on Rogan's podcast, but he also mentioned profit. He's talking about profits. Profits are talking about this and that. But so to have a presidential candidate talk about UFOs and profits in the same 3-hour interview, I'm not talking about anything political. This is not a political stance.
I don't care. I'll say
it's just a general statement.
Not Biden. I don't care.
It's just a general statement that it's pretty crazy to be hearing these conversations on that big a stage. Last time I checked, that interview was over 30 million. 30 million views. That's 30 million people that heard UFO. Heard them talk about UFOs and profit. I don't care what the candidate is or what they're about. Like that's huge. That's amazing stuff. Yep. So I think we're at an amazing time, and that's another thing that speaks about this is a crazy election is when I did the Ian Bick podcast. When I flew to New York and did the Ian Bick podcast, I landed at LaGuardia, and everyone's turned on their phones and everything, and everyone's gasping. And that's when the first assassination attempt Trump was when he got clipped in the ear. So that happened when I was in flight to New York for this Ian Bick podcast. Fast forward, it took him like 7-8 weeks before it dropped. The day it dropped was the second assassination attempt on Trump. And then, to hear him talk about UFOs and everything, I really think I truly look back at my visions and dreams and everything. And you wrote recurring dreams, and the message was very, very clear, like a verbal message in those dreams. Trump will be the last president of this current governmental structure. And holla freaking Luya, holla freaking Luya. Not about Trump, because I'm not subscribing to the whole thing anyways. I'm not subscribing to, it's what people talk about. There's two wings of the same feather. Or the same bird.
There's one feather that's like more damaged than the other feather. I think that's the way I look at it.
But is it? I mean, if
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
To think that a institution as big as our government or any government is going to give, especially the American government, we're, largest nation in the world, whatever, biggest nation, rah, 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 this, that, whatever, red, white, and blue. To think that they're going to give the reins to someone new every 4 years it doesn't make any sense to me, because they plan 300 years out in advance. Like how would they? Right. That's kind of well known that they're not planning every 4 years. They're not planning. They're not planning year to year. They're playing long game. 200-300 years out. So to say that they would give the reins to a new person every 4 years, and I think that this interview with Rogan was very telling. He was unscripted, and he was talking about things, off the cuff. And, when he talked about getting into office, and they said, they were kind of steering him not to look at certain files or share certain information from files and things like that. That's telling me if I'm president going in and someone's telling me like, here's this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, this, that, and the other, like, someone else is in charge. And I think we've known that. I think we've known that for a very long time. And it's to have it said, by Trump, in that instance, it was very telling. It was very telling of, who's actually in charge. And I will stand by my convictions that the reason that they haven't had disclosure before now is because when it comes out, the next question that they're here, that question gets answered on, governmental stage or whatever, and then the next question is going to be, who are they? Why are they here? Like, I think.
Do you think anybody's going to believe it coming from the government? I
don't know. I think there's a group. I think the boomers.
Yeah.
The boomers have to. They need to see that on the ticker tape on CNN. But as we were shown, going back to this interview, that it's shifting. The younger generation. I don't know what the interview. Let me check what the interview on Rogan's up to now, just on YouTube. We're not talking about Apple or anything else. We're talking about just on YouTube, these crazy viral numbers. So I think what we're seeing here is, a shift. It's a shift. 39 million views.
Something is
39 million views. A shift is coming out of CNN, the National Enquirer, all these wherever the boomers got their news from, newspapers and stuff like this. This is where we're going to be getting our news from coming up, and we're the podcast and radio and stuff like that, to have these extended interviews where we can actually get to know someone and get to the nitty gritty. I mean, everybody knows as soon as they found out Trump's going on there, I tuned in. I was like, I'm waiting for the UFO question. I know it's coming.
Right.
It's coming. And he did a really good job of corralling. Trump can be a kind of slippery guy in interviews and stuff, go off on his own tangent. But Rogan had a way of bringing him back on and making him.
He did a good job with
and
him.
making him answer certain questions. I mean, and did it do good for him? Yeah, probably. He probably gained some support. A lot of the supporters, a lot of the people that were listening to it already were probably already Trump supporters. So he probably didn't gain, we can't say he gained 39 million supporters, because a lot of those people were already Trump supporters. We know that. But it did it help him? Probably. Should Camilla go on Rogan? Yes. I think she should go on. I think she should go to Austin. I think she should have a 3-hour interview with Rogan, you know, because I'm about balance, you know, like let's hear what she's got to say. You know, she's a human too. This is what we got to remember. We can sit there and say like one side's evil, one side's not, but like one thing I know, like everybody has a heartbeat, you know, and we all have a heartbeat. We all have, you know, we're all connected. We all have this ability to connect, you know, whether we do or don't. We all have that same ability, you know, there's no one evil or, you know, and I think no matter whether you're a Trump supporter or a Camilla supporter, whatever side you're going for right now, like step back and think these are people. Like, did Trump get shot in the ear? Like, he probably, from what I know from having near-death experiences and stuff, he probably had realizations, you know, after that. You would have, and I'm just saying, because I know there's going to be people out there saying, oh, he didn't get shot in the ear, this, that, and that. Who knows? Like, I wasn't there. I don't know. I can't. You know, I didn't have firsthand witness.
Sad.
No, I can't say for certain whether it happened, whether it didn't. All I'm saying is, if it did happen, you had a spiritual experience. That's what I'm saying. Like, if that did all go down exactly the way that we've seen it, you know, he did get shot in the ear. Almost got. If he didn't turn at the right moment, he would have got, you know, the side of his head blown off. Whatever. If that all went down like that, he had a spiritual experience. I can guarantee that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So that's what I love about you and Tim is that you guys know how I like, you know, I okay, but I love the way that both of you are able to balance that out, because you're right. You do need balance, and I'm like an advocate on the other side of things. And it's not even so much for. I just think we should reduce the government. I think we should reduce. I don't think we need all this stuff. But what did you think about Steve? I'm pushing for Mr. Bassett to show up at the event in May, because I think this would be good for him, especially Jim Goodall. I'm going to get him to go too, because they've not experienced like the consciousness, like all of us, like, you know, and I know he does it a little bit, like jabs a little and I jab back a little bit. You know what I mean? On the experiencer end. But
yeah, I think it's great. I think, you know, to bridge a gap, you know, I think part of my mission here, or a large part of my mission here, you know, on this earth here, is to bridge the gap between science and spirituality, you know, and that's been, you know, a side note of my overall mission to be here. And I know it's working, you know, because I know I'm gaining traction on where I'm going. You know, I'm hitting big numbers. You know, this guy I'm going to interview on January 3rd, he's got 11 million on Instagram. Like, you know, 11 million followers.
I can't tell you now, but I got some really exciting news that's going to blow that out of the water, man. But yeah, we've got, you have no idea. Tim, like, we'll tell you, like, once I get it all ironed out, but I'm not joking you, it would put us at a position where we'd be millions in front of millions of people and be able to present this. So, you know, and you think of that, like, long term, like this, I know, Drew, like, your journey, I've watched it, like, and Tim, I know you're coming into like this, and like you've stepped up, and we are the 3 people here who've like hung in the longest, like, with this and carried it through. But yeah, I'm super excited. Hopefully I'll get that sealed this week, and we'll be able to announce it next week. But we're not even just staying here. We're going international. So that'd be great.
He's always good.
Oh, I know. I love him.
Trying to move the paradigm forward. You know.
Say that again. I think I couldn't hear that well.
Oh, I just thought it was amazing having Bassett on today.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then, you know what, we got to remember too. And then after the congressional hearing, to grab him right there. So he said he'd come right on, and he will. If you ask him, he's the most timely. Like, he'll just instantly doesn't respond, you know, and he's good about it. But definitely. Then Drew, you'll have to let us know how you want to handle that part too, so we don't stomp on your show too much.
Yeah, no, it's all right. It's you it was a great conversation. It needed to be had, and there's, like I said, there's people that need that, and it's not just boomers. It goes past boomers. I misspoke earlier, but it goes past boomers. There's people that, and this is no judgment either way. There's people that need someone, the president to stand at a podium and say, look, this is what's been going on, and this is, and there's people that don't. There's people that don't need to hear that, but there is people that need to hear that, and there's a large number of people that need. There's a large percentage of the population that need that to happen on a global scale. But
for that validity or that confirmation,
that
we have
all
each other.
That all could change at 8:30 tomorrow morning, because flotillas could come down and uncloak, all over the world. And then, then we don't have a government. Then we don't have a government anymore. That's the question I should have asked Steve. Like, what's he think? Like, is this disclosure going to dismantle governmental structure and our structure of way of life? Like what we see.
Okay, the caretaking government, how he initially had it planned, and I'll send it to you. And I've already talked to him about this, and then he kind of tries to around it. But the government would step in and take care of the people for 2 years. It's not like the babying of the government. He kind of changed his position on it. But back then, he thought the government would step in for 2 years after post-disclosure. And it basically sounded just like communism to me. But I'll send you the information on how this is, and what he's saying about the TTSA and stuff. We're getting some of it because something's coming. There's a shift. There's definitely a shift in the paradigm, for sure.
Yeah.
But then that's just the thing you got to be careful of. Like, so I don't want the government taking care of me. They can't take care of themselves. It's like being with an abusive parent. Like we've known that. They've known for what do you say, 77 years? We're talking back 30s and 40s, with UFOs, consciousness, studies of psychedelics, using consciousness and on telepathy, remote viewing, like all these different programs are being talked about and like admitted upon. So, why, my overall question, and why are we studying consciousness so deeply? Like, why is it such a big part of all these different things? Like studying it. Yeah.
I know, but the question's why. I know the answer. Like, I know the answer to the question, but because it's the connection between us and ET is our, I believe, on the Native American tip, like where this is our ancestors, this is where we are deeply related. And Steve was talking when I asked him the consciousness connection, and he's like, okay, we know that some humans can use telepathy and other special abilities, and we know that telepathy is used on a much higher scale or much more mastered in a much more mastered way by these visitors these ET's visitors. So it would be wise to think that maybe our progression 2 million years, 3 million years, 1 billion years from now, we have mastered telekinesis, we've mastered telepathy and all these different other superhero things that we talked about. But
I feel like so we know that we're able to do that. Like, and he always says, "Oh, it's like, nah, I'm not waiting for a time to shine here. I'm more concerned that I've put all this out there, and that because there is all three of us here have that ability. Obviously, when we've had communication back and forth, and I'm just saying that I think it's good for him to take a step, into this realm a little bit and understand that they're not going to be able to. And he did say something though that kind of threw me off. How something was ready to come forward. Like, do they have something or somebody? And he really liked who is it that he kept commenting on with the what is it, the I can't remember what star system they're from. I don't get into that much, but he said the lovely so and so. So I'm like, I almost felt like they had like, do they have somebody lined up here to come out? Because otherwise, what changes? Because like the same thing, right? I don't know. Like what changes unless somebody does? I'm gonna have to re-listen to that, but we'll catch him again. I think that's a good one. Definitely a good one.
Sorry, guys, my keeps going in and out.
I know, and you know what? It's great. Twitter, we've been like totally ahead on Twitter. Last time we had close to 500, and so now we will be. Everybody can tune in on Tuesday. Does anybody want to give the time? Because I'm incompetent of doing that at this moment in time.
So we started we started at 8 p.m. Well, we started about 8:10, but 8 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, and there so on and so forth. So it'd be 7 p.m.
Is that the way we're going to continue?
Okay. I mean, that's what time we started tonight. So.
Yeah, and it looks great. Like the later it is, like look, it's already up to 240 on Twitter. So it's Twitter's is a great, and we need to get in there and do some spaces and stuff because yes, our original plan too. Yeah. So we're really excited, and thanks for everyone for bearing with us. And Drew, big hugs from your dysfunctional family. We love you. And so I'm not gonna close it. I mean, you take us out whenever you want, one by one.
Yeah, no, just
thank her. Do you have more?
Yeah, no.
I'll let you do it.
Thank everybody for being here, and yeah, follow me on Twitter and all the other stuff, and be looking forward to talking to you next.